Hello, folks. It's that time of year again. Time for the yearly leftist tirade about everyone's favorite punching bag, Christopher Columbus. Statue vandalism. It's all really quite sad. Because most of it's not true. And anyone who would bother to do a little research would find that out. Unfortunately, the last place you want to get history these days is from a school textbook or from academia. This is being done intentionally. It's a Marxist tactic, the rewriting of history, and not in a good way. Howard Zinn's book, A People's History of the United States, is very anti-American. Anyone that's read it can tell that. And the portion on Columbus is largely taken from another book, Hans Koning's book, Columbus, His Enterprise. Now, I went over this in another video, so I'm not going to go over it again. Not to mention a very little known book written by William Z. Foster, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of America, back in the late 40s into the 50s. He wrote a book called Outline Political History of the Americas, and Zinn's book is kind of similar. And they're both on archive.org if you're interested in looking them up. Francisco Bobadilla was a man that's largely responsible for the, well, let's just say atrocities that Columbus gets blamed for. Now, those are rough times. And no, Columbus wasn't perfect. He made his mistakes. He was a gifted sailor and seaman and explorer, but he was poor at, let's just say, politics and administration. And he got himself caught up in some unpleasant business with people who were more political savvy than he. But there's a lot more to the story than you're going to read from Howard Zinn and the little bits of information you get about Columbus in school. Always ask yourself, whether it's Columbus or anything else, what are they not telling? That's what you got to ask, because that can be more important than what they do tell you. Columbus had a falling out with one Father Buyland. He was a priest. And he went back to Spain and kind of, what do you call it, poisoned the king's heir, the king and queen. Now, Queen Isabella, there was a woman now, but that's another story. There are good books you can get about her. Be careful. History is being used as a political weapon these days, and it's important what you read, what sources you get. That's what I mean. There, Peter Martyr's De Orbe Novo is a good one to get. Volume 1. But we'll go over that a little bit at the end of the presentation. The sources to research. And there are some other good books written by historians that are more accurate than, let's say, Howard Zinn. And there's another a Columbus hater that followed after Zinn, James Lowen. What did he write? A book called something like Lies Your Teacher Told You, or something like that. Maybe you're familiar with it. That's another one. Stay away from it. And I didn't mention it, write it in this presentation, but another book that's little known that Columbus himself wrote is called The Book of Prophecy. That's a good one to get if you can find it, if you're interested. Now, Columbus never ran a sex slave ring. That's ridiculous. But I actually heard a very popular channel on YouTube say that. You probably know who I mean. YT. De las Casas writes about how these hidalgos acted after Columbus was out of the picture and Bobadilla had came in. He just left them do as they pleased. And they're the ones that ran the so-called slave ring, who were gathering up women to sell. They were the ones that Columbus was writing about. And instead of saying that, these disingenuous and lying, leftist channels made it sound like Columbus was bragging about it. No. He was writing about it in a letter that he wrote to the sovereign. And you can read it yourself in the letters of Christopher Columbus. See that little quote there? You won't see that quoted in Howard Zinn's book. And this book is difficult to find. And if you can find it, it's rather expensive. And that's a shame. And I believe that's intentional. But if you want Howard Zinn's book, oh, they're just laying all over the place. You can get them for free. And you rarely hear them mention the Carib or the Carib, from where we get the word Caribbean. They were a cannibalistic tribe that preyed on the other weaker tribes in the Caribbean. And the Tainos were one of those. Have you ever seen The Time Machine by H.G. Wells or read the book, The Morlocks and the Eloi? Kind of like that. And Columbus befriended a cacique or a chief of the Taino and promised him that he would take care of the matter and help him out with being the prey of these cannibals. Unless you think cannibalism's awesome and should be, you don't want to be a cannibalophobe, do you? And now Ovando here, he came after Bobadilla, and he was not warm and fuzzy either. These guys, you have to remember, these people grew up in a nasty time. All they knew was war and fighting, and they seen killing all their lives with their own people. What makes you think they would give a flip about a bunch of hunter-gatherers, natives? Projecting modern day sensibilities and political worldviews back in time onto these people is mental. Sorry, it just is. Just be thankful we're no longer like that. That was just the way of the world back then. Life was fleeting and short, and death was everywhere. And they looked at the world differently than we do today. And you're probably not going to hear much about the Siete Partitas in Zinn's book or any of the other school textbooks, unfortunately, and that's sad. Now, here are some books that, if you are interested in researching and learning about Columbus, I recommend. The top three are primary sources. The yellow book on the right is difficult to find, and Las Casas' History of the Indies has never been fully translated into English. It's 3 volumes. If you're fluent in Spanish, then you can find it. The Spanish version in full is available, but it's never been translated. This here is an abridgment that was done in early 70s, and that's all there is. If you can find it, and if you do, it's expensive. And it's not online for free either that I can find. And the bottom books, They're easily available on Amazon, eBay, etc. Look into them. The book by Carol Delaney there, second from the left. Mary Graber, she's fantastic. She recently came out with a book debunking the 1619 Project. And the far right there, the far right book there, Columbus the Hero by Raphael. He has several other books too. You can check them out on Amazon, okay? So here I wrote it down so you could take notes about it, or screenshot if you wish to check later. And I got a lot of the information and that I used here from Robert Petrone's article on Columbus. I want to mention him, give him credit. broadandliberty.com. He done a fantastic article on Columbus a year or two ago. 8-part series. Check it out. And I'll leave a link in the description. Not to mention, of course, and of course to mention the other books. And that's it. Have a happy Columbus Day. Free from leftist indoctrination, I hope. Truth seekers. As I said, Columbus was not perfect. He made his share of mistakes. That's because we're all human and in a fallen state. And in no way do I expect any of these men to be saints and perfect. Okay? But he certainly was not the Hitler, Jerry Dahmer hybrid that the left makes him out to be. Okay? Enough. So with that, God bless, take care, and we'll see you on the next one.